check. Does this thing work? Like, it seems quite low at the moment, but I don't know. Oh, wait, there it is. Maybe I should increase it, like, further. Wait, it's still a bit unclear. Let me just, like, maybe move my mic a bit closer. Okay, I don't know if that helps. Is that? Uh, okay. Does that do a difference? No, hang on. Does that help, or? Let's see. Please to work. Should be working. I don't know why it's not working. The title's so wrong. Oh, because I only changed it on YouTube. Okay, hang on. Okay. Okay, and the camera's gone stiff again. I don't know why it always does that. Oh, okay, that's probably settings thing, I think. Okay, I still can't hear anything. Not on my end, at least. Is this thing working, or? Yeah, checking Twitch. Maybe if I. Okay. Is it because I disconnected this? No, that's good.
Oh my god, that was fully real.
weird. Hang on. I don't know why the sound. I can't even hear it through. That's weird. Through my headphones. Does that work now? Everything seems correct. Like, what the hell? Yeah, everything's fine. I just don't understand why the sound's not. I can't even hear the sound itself. Maybe that's fine. Maybe that's not an issue. I don't know why my webcam keeps freezing though. Okay. Well, if it freezes, I'll probably just pause for a bit and then fix that. But, I really wonder why I can't hear this. Hang on.
About my weight.
Well,
I was angry with
okay.
myself. Why am I gay?
Oh, there we go. Now I can actually hear it. I just had to disconnect and reconnect again. Oh, there we go.
Gaining so much weight. Why am I so ugly? Why do people think I'm a monster?
I forgot that I can also hear the other head desktop. I wonder if I can change what can be heard.
From the age of 13, I started stuffing myself with potato chips, pastries, and TV and just eat more and more. The ads showed all this stuff that looked really tasty, and I needed to try everything. At school, I got picked on a lot about my weight. I was angry with myself. Why am I gaining so much weight? Why am I so ugly? Why do people think I'm a monster? Why do I get insulted in the street by strangers just because of how I look? I was mad at myself for putting on so much weight and not being able to lose it. In movies, people seem to have no problem losing weight, but reality is different.
Right, that's low-key kind of true. Like, I genuinely don't understand why, like, um, you know, why some people tend to comment on, like, oh, um, like, you look like this, you look like that, but, like, it doesn't really bother you. Like, it does not affect you. Like, I don't get it. Like, I understand you have, like, opinions and shit, but, like, I think knowing that it has an impact on someone and you still do it, like, I don't get it, especially with adults. Like, I never understood that. Like, well, actually, that's not true. Like, I mean, it does make sense. Um, but yeah, that's quite harsh. Like, even like I'm pretty sure like I had to unlearn all that sort of stuff, like all this sort of like thinking, and thank goodness. I think it just makes you to an actually decent person, I guess.
Carole is 34 years old and lives near the Swiss city of Lausanne. Since her teens, her diet has consisted primarily of sandwiches, snacks, and sugary drinks. Junk food.
The more I ate, the worse I felt, including my problems with how people looked at me. And I ate more to feel better. It was a vicious circle that I couldn't escape from, and my doses continually increased of things that were sweeter or saltier or more flavorful.
And how about the
Gradually lost
two
control.
people who joined?
Sugar, salt, and fat. 3 ingredients that make food irresistible. Scientists working for manufacturers are constantly trying to find the perfect combination of these tempting ingredients. We talk to a man who knows the industry inside and out and reveals the strategies deployed by the food giants.
Damn, that's a lot of sugar.
Those 3 ingredients are so powerful. Salt, they call it the flavor burst because typically it's on the surface of chips, on snacks. It's the first thing that touches the tongue. They love fats as well because those are what they call the mouthfeel, the sensation of biting into a warm toasted cheese sandwich. And then probably the most powerful of the 3 for many people
Wait,
is sugar.
what did he say?
The mouth fats as well, which is the chips, so powerful. Salt, they call it the flavor burst because typically it's on the surface of chips, on snacks. It's the first thing that touches the tongue. They love fats as well because those are what they call the mouthfeel, the sensation of biting into a warm toasted cheese sandwich. And then probably the most powerful of the 3 for many people is sugar. Just by natural, by basic instinct. And so the industry has engineered what they call the bliss point for the perfect amount of sugar in products. Not too little, not too much. Working on maximum, just by because those are what they chips on snacks. It's the first thing that touches the tongue. They love fats as well.
Ah, it didn't update. That's so weird. I realized the title was
sensation of biting into a warm toasted cheese sandwich. And then probably the most powerful of the 3 for many people is sugar. Just by natural, by basic instinct. And so the industry has engineered what they call the bliss point for the perfect amount of sugar in products. Not too little, not too much. Working on maximizing the allure of the product.
The investigative journalist spent years researching for his best-selling book on the food industry and the manufacturing of processed foods.
I resisted calling their products addictive because it seemed crazy to compare Oreo cookies with heroin. It just seemed ludicrous. But I have to say that several things completely changed my mind, and I'm now convinced that in some ways these food products are even more problematic for us than tobacco, alcohol, even some kinds of drugs.
It's no longer a secret that these highly processed products are directly linked to the global obesity epidemic. Carole is a patient at the obesity clinic of the University Hospital in Lausanne. 2 years ago, her obesity almost killed her. She was barely able to move or even breathe. She's recently undergone gastric bypass surgery, which drastically reduced the size of her stomach. Carole's come to the clinic today to see an endocrinologist and a psychiatrist. She's already shed 35 kilos, but has a lot of things to relearn, such as the sensation of feeling hungry or full. She also has to learn self-respect again. She's got a long road ahead of her.
How have you been?
I don't feel like there's been a change or I've lost any weight. In the mirror, I can't see any difference. I do see it in the clothes, though. The shirt I'm wearing used to be too small for me. And there are some pants that were too small that I can wear again, and others that are now too big.
The multidisciplinary department at Lausanne University Hospital has around 1,500 overweight patients on its books. Carole is one of the 220 who suffer from obesity.
We've seen an explosion in the number of patients suffering from extreme obesity. In recent decades, our immediate environment has seen changes so profound that we now call it obesogenic or toxic, and toxic in terms of calories. Advertising and special promotional offers encourage us to eat more and more food, and often of poorer quality. And this complexity. In recent decades, our immediate environment has seen changes so profound that we now call it obesogenic or toxic, and toxic in terms of calories. Advertising and special promotional offers encourage us to eat more and more food, and often of poorer quality. And this compromises our personal freedom.
Here in Switzerland, 42% of the population is overweight.
Oh,
1 in
jeez.
10 is obese.
There's a link between the emergence of ultra-processed junk food, the decrease
That's
in physical
crazy.
activity, and
43% of Swiss people are overweight. Jeez, 43. Let me check that. What are the percentage Swiss people? Oh yeah, shit. Oh wow, 43 according to the Swiss Federal Statistic Office. That's wow, that is a massive, massive number of the population. Jeez.
increase in
Wow,
screen
alright.
time. And this ensemble of environmental factors favors the explosion of obesity that we're currently seeing.
Research papers show growing indications of the link between obesity and the consumption of industrially processed foods.
Absolutely. Ultra-processed foods often have calories in extremely large quantities, while not necessarily making you feel full. And in the context of this explosion of obesity, these foods clearly play a major role.
A doctor linking unhealthy food to obesity is understandable. But what we might not expect is the world's largest food manufacturer admitting the same. In 2021, Nestle came under fire after details from an internal presentation were published by the Financial Times. The document showed the company acknowledging that the majority of its products were unhealthy. Over 60% did not meet a recognized definition of health. The data did not include coffee, baby formulas, or food for specific medical conditions. The presentation was intended for company executives as a basis for revising their corporate strategy. And the multinational's response to the revelation?
Was it a shock to learn that far more products than expected were below this threshold for unhealthy foods?
Once we realized this, we knew we had to do something. We want to determine which products we should keep, which ones we discard, and which ones we could reformulate.
And this is a policy that you're following because there is a real awareness that a lot of your foods are unhealthy? Or because you need to keep selling products to stay number one in the world?
Ooh, asking the right question.
We want to be there for consumers and be where they are. With COVID, there's been a growing concern about health and immunity, and about sugar intake. People are now more aware of the need to reduce their consumption.
Is that true? I'm curious. Is there a growing, what's the word, awareness for health and sugar consumption during COVID? Yes, the COVID-19 pandemic caused a major shift in how people view their health. During lockdowns, global health awareness grew because underlying conditions like obesity and diabetes increased the risk of severe virus complications. However, this awareness did not always stop people from eating sugar. Okay, what's the paper that's like changes in food and drink consumption patterns? Public health response to the SARS-CoV-2 pandemic concerns about ultra-processed foods consumption introduction. There is a scientific consistency in the concept of ultra-processed foods. The descriptor, most recently points to troubling evidence and policies. What is the conclusion of this paper? A bit too long. We reviewed the existing literature on the consumption of UPFs in the context of SARS-CoV-2 pandemic, focusing on studies that drew comparisons of consumption against pre-pandemic lockdown dietary habits. Our findings showed a clear upward trend for the consumption of sweets. Oh, okay. Snacks and bakery versus a decrease in ready-to-eat or delivery foods, instant soups, ready-to-eat meals, canned foods, etc., and sugary drinks. No trend was observed for processed meat consumption on this latter food group. A likely explanation for the lack of increase in consumption may lie. Okay, in this, that's concluded. In the study, we gave an overview of the existing data on changes in UPFs, consumption driven by SARS-CoV-2 lockdown to derive a synthesis hitherto lacking in the literature. The main findings were clear upward trends in the. So there was, and we gave an obvious changes driven by. So because of SARS-CoV-2 or COVID, the main findings show a upward trend in consumption of sweets, snacks, and baked goods. Whilst there was a decrease in ready-to-eat and delivery foods and sugary drinks. Okay. In light of the well-known human health effect of UPF consumption in all groups, and the continuing health emergency, knowledge on the topic. Okay, so this paper doesn't really say much. How a global. That's a good paper. Many adults consume more unhealthy foods and sugar drinks during the pandemic. That's according to the American Society for Nutrition. So Rockville, Maryland. Nutrition 2012 brings new insights into how people ate, shopped, and blah, blah, blah. Unfolded studies showing these trends can shed light on potential lingering health impacts of the. Okay. And what's the most relevant information here? A study conducted by the Center for Disease Control and Prevention using a survey of nearly 4,000 US adults conducted in June 2020 found that a sizable portion of Americans increased their consumption of unhealthy snacks and sugary drinks during COVID-19 pandemic. 16% of respondents reported they often always consume more unhealthy snacks and desserts since the pandemic. Okay, 10% of respondents reported often always consuming more sugary beverages, and 22% said they sometimes did. Respondents reporting the greatest increase in consumption of unhealthy snacks, desserts to sugar drinks, were more likely to be younger than age 65, identify as Black, have lower income, and have obesity. Women were significantly more likely than men to report often always consuming more unhealthy snacks or dessert. Researchers say the findings could help inform strategies to reduce added sugar intakes going forward. Ah, interesting. So this is the study I'm looking at. So the important figures are this. I wonder if I can use this. Can I use this? Wait, no, this is I forgot what the highlighted thing is. Oh, there it is. Where is it? It says will increase their consumption of unhealthy snacks. It's an ugly color. And snacks and dessert and pandemic 36. And this. So 60% of those respondents say they had more unhealthy snacks, often consuming more beverages, and 22% said they sometimes did. Oh wait, 10% of respondents reported often. Also, this is more frequent. Increased frequencies. What is a change color? But increased unhealthy snacks, and that women are significantly more likely than men to report. Oh wait, I missed another one. Another important stat. The greatest increase in consumption of unhealthy snacks, just with sugar, are more likely to be young people, especially identify as, who are young, especially young and identify as Black. Okay, so that's, well, this study's saying it's not entirely true then, but moving on.
People on that journey to eat better and stay healthy.
Nestle has already removed a number of product lines from its portfolio, such as sausage products. But why didn't the Swiss multinational and other food giants change course sooner? Minneapolis, USA, the 8th of April, 1999. A secret meeting brought together the CEOs of the country's 8 biggest food companies, among them Nestle USA. On the agenda,
Yeah, I didn't know Nestle was
one of the most
Swiss.
serious public health epidemics ever seen in the U.S. Rising overweight and obesity rates.
There's growing concern about their culpability of their products to weight gain, to diabetes, to even several types of cancer. And they get together, and one of them, a gentleman named Michael Mudd, who's an executive vice president of Kraft, one of the biggest companies in the world, introduces the crowd. He gets up and explains the situation.
We cannot pretend food isn't part of the obesity problem. No credible expert will attribute the rise in obesity solely to decreased physical activity. The one thing we shouldn't do is nothing.
As you can imagine, he was not well received by the heads of the company. And one of the company executives gets up, and he's kind of visibly angry, and he goes, oh, look, there's no way, he says, that we're going to mess around with the company jewels, referring to their powerful ingredients like salt, sugar, fat, if that's going to diminish the allure, the attractiveness of the sales.
The corporations saw no reason or incentive to change anything. The meeting ended abruptly, illustrating their lack of interest.
Boo.
There was seemingly no stopping the obesity epidemic, as shown by the growing amount of red on this map. Weight gain is rapidly increasing worldwide. The darker the shades of red, the higher the rates of obesity. Mexico is among the countries most gravely affected.
Wait, what Middle Eastern country is that? Like right here. That is... Oh, it's Saudi Arabia. Whoa, really? How obese? Well, I mean, this is like 2013, so who knows how much it's changed. How obese is Saudi Arabia? Obesity is a major public health emergency in Saudi Arabia, affecting about 35 to 42% of adults. Okay, what is... I want to see that original paper. What is this website? mo.gov. Also, official government website of the government of the Kingdom of Saudi Arabia. WHO statistics for 2016 indicates that more than 1.9 billion adults 18 years and over suffer from being overweight, and 650 million people suffer from obesity. But in children, wait, but obesity among adults in the kingdom, or aka Saudi Arabia. The obesity rate in Saudi Arabia among adults 18 and over reached 20.2%. So, geez, wow, that's quite a massive chunk. And overweight, whoa, geez, overweight 38.2%. Wow, so no, okay, yeah, it's obesity and then overweight, right? Not okay, yeah. It's in that descending order. The prevalence of obesity was higher among women at 21.4% compared to men at 19.2%. Why is that the case? Why is it like from the two studies I read so far, it's mostly in terms of gender, women are more likely to be obese than men? Why? That's a question I have. Why is it that gender-wise, women tend to be more... What did the study say? Overweight or... Da, 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 da. At 38.2. And so obesity 21.4% of compared to men at 19.2. Okay, let me just shift that over here. So okay. Let me just link the study.
Mexico is among the countries most gravely affected. Over 3/4 of the adult population here are classified as over.
Whoa. 76%. Holy. Wait, if that's bad, isn't like Malaysia like the most obese country? Wait, actually, let me double check that. Which country is the most obese? Oh, Nauru? Yeah, Nauru in... So a Pacific Island country. Damn, okay. Wait, no, hang on. But according to the World Obesity Federation, alright, in case the Gemini is like hallucinating, let's check the actual data. So American Samoa. Wait, why is Mexico? Oh, wait, but this is adult males. Let's include both. Really? Not Mexico? 76% overweight or obese. Oh, but this is overweight or obese. Does that change how it's reflected in the stats? Countries most obese or overweight. Oh, it's still American Samoa. Interesting. is Mexico 76. Wait, did they say adults?
Over 3/4 of the adult
Yeah.
population.
This is Mexico 76% of adults obese or overweight. No, the combined rate of overnight. Oh, sorry, overnight rate of overweight and obese adults in Mexico is roughly 70% on 76. Okay, so here's how the numbers break down. Combined rate is 70 to 75%. Obese alone is 30 to 36. Okay, so that means the remaining, what, like 40-ish is overweight? Jeez. Okay, but in this, I wonder why this is, like, different then. Like, if I go through here, like, can I go... Can I click on that? No, I can't. Okay. Can I search countries? I can't. Mexico. Let me just control F it. Okay, yeah, no, 32%. Oh, but this is obese, right? It doesn't show obese and overweight. Okay, sure.
Here are classified as overweight or obese. Mexico also has one of the worst rates of child obesity. In grocery stores here, the shelves are packed with junk food. Obesity is prevalent among all ages of the population, including Rogelio, who mostly eats chips, other snacks, and sugary drinks.
Ever since I was little, I've been eating this type of food. My mother never told me to eat fruit instead. She always said, if you like it, then eat it.
Rogelio is a cab driver. He spends up to 12 hours a day in his car.
It's super tasty and helps me keep on working. I can keep driving without having to stop to feed myself.
At home, it's the same. Fast, fatty, and cheap food, washed down with soda. Rogelio has 2 children, a daughter in her teens, and a little boy.
I'll show you some pictures where I was a little fat. Me with my son. Here I weighed about 120 kilos.
120?
This picture 126 kilos.
It's quite heavy.
Was all that weight a burden?
Yes, I was really suffering. You don't want to go out anymore because you're immediately out of breath.
Jeez. That's so sad.
Honestly, I was just lying around and eating continuously. Since then, I've been trying to lose some weight so I can live longer.
Aww.
The current government has made the battle against obesity a priority. And leading the charge is Hugo Lopez Gatté, a doctor, trusted advisor to the president and deputy minister of health.
For at least the last 15 years, about a third of all deaths in Mexico have been caused by poor nutrition. And that's mainly due to excess amounts of sugar, calories, fat, and salt.
The top 3
In 1980, just under 7%
food best
of the
points.
population in Mexico was obese. Since then, the figure has risen over fivefold.
Holy. Jeez.
In that same time frame, the country has undergone radical changes due to the opening of the market to international trade.
I literally was gonna say, I'm like, oh, I think part of that is just how accessible like fast food products have become. I guess that makes sense, right? 1980, and then you go onwards, and international trade. That makes sense.
In the 1980s, there was a very abrupt change. Both economically and socially, the country turned towards neoliberalism and economic deregulation. At the same time, the protections provided by the state against health risks were dismantled. Although it would take a few years for the consequences to become apparent. There was an increase in overweight people. And after about 10 to 15 years, we were seeing chronic diseases like hypertension, diabetes, obesity, and cancer, etc.
The tipping point was the signing of the free trade agreements with the US and Canada in 1994, which flooded the Mexican market with cheap processed products. The ubiquity of sugary drinks like
Hey, what year was that?
Coca-Cola,
1974?
which flooded the Mexican
Oh,
market with
1994.
cheap
What? Yeah, why did it be
processed
74?
The ubiquity of sugary drinks like Coca-Cola is symbolic of this disaster. Today, Mexicans consume an average of 163 liters of soda per person per year. With
163 liters of soda. Holy shit. That is... So if you divide that with 365 days, that's 400-ish ml per day. Geez, 400 ml per day for 365 days. Oh, jeez. That's quite a lot.
the Mexican parliament passed 3 essential regulations: a sugar tax, a clampdown on adverts targeting children, and a warning label prominently displayed on unhealthy products, similar to cigarette packaging. The measures were lobbied for by consumer groups, doctors, and private groups like the one run by Doré Castillo.
Doré Castillo.
Today,
What is that?
manufacturers have to declare whether their products contain excess sugar, calories, saturated fat, trans fats, and salt. This is fundamental in the fight against excess weight, obesity, and preventable non-communicable diseases. To avoid these labels, many brands have changed product formulas and reduced the amount of sugar, for example.
And then there are the restrictions on children's products, in particular the animal mascots.
The manufacturers had to remove the tigers from these cereal boxes. Others had an elephant or a toucan. These images are ingrained in the memory of so many children and are all part of the marketing strategy to boost sales and brand loyalty. It's great to see these labels and different packaging helping people make their decisions. It was really tough. Part of the general struggle we're fighting to protect the health of people in Mexico.
Food corporations have launched legal challenges to oppose the mandatory labels. They claim that the labels prevent consumers from being able to compare products and selecting those that mean a healthy diet.
Right.
Those that prevent challenges to oppose the mandatory labels. They claim that the labels prevent consumers from being able to compare products and selecting those that mean a healthy diet.
So those health labels make it hard for consumers to compare products? Okay.
From oppose the mandatory label. They
Oh,
claim
okay.
the labels
Interesting.
prevent consumers from being able to compare products and selecting those that mean a healthy diet.
Me parece indignante que las empresas
It's scandalous that food companies, whether they're multinational, international, or Mexican, are so indifferent to human suffering.
Indolencia frente a
Basically, they have contempt for ordinary people.
Desprecio por lo público.
That has to be such a BS from these companies, though.
I've heard these executives so often pretending to talk to the government.
Cuando intentan acercarse al gobierno para buscar un diálogo.
But in reality, they have other intentions.
Tácticas dilatorias.
Delaying tactics and misinformation in order to win time and keep on making profit. Despite being aware they are killing people, especially minors.
Matando personas, y sobre todo personas menores de edad.
We contacted the big players in the Mexican food industry, but none of them wanted to give us an interview. As for the situation in Switzerland, here there are no legal constraints in place to combat overweight and obesity rates, despite them costing over 8 billion Swiss francs a year in healthcare.
8
How
billion.
about a tax on
Jeez.
sugary drinks? An idea that's already been adopted in over 50 nations around the world. Among them are a number of European countries, including France and Britain. And it works. We take the example of a bottle of Fanta bought in a store in Britain, where it's subject to the special tax. Some of the sugar has been replaced with a sweetener, reducing the sugar content to 4.6 grams per deciliter. The same drink in Switzerland contains 10.3 grams of sugar, over twice the amount.
Oui, vous avez raison, 4,6 grammes, alors
That's right, 4.6 grams as opposed to 10.3. It's difficult to tell whether what you're consuming is healthy.
le sucre s'appelle le 15.
There are 15 different names for sugar, and we never know how high its content actually is. There are marketing tools enabling companies to hide the sugar content. The government needs to take responsibility here.
That's crazy.
Politician Delphine Bachmann has submitted an initiative from the Geneva region for the Swiss National Parliament. The goal is a tax to limit sugar content in beverages and processed foods.
The industry knows full well that the products are unhealthy. Companies know they're hiding sugar, but they're afraid to lose these consumers who've become accustomed to the products. They don't want transparency. What we need is political action, and there are signs of that in a few regions. My hope is that the accumulation of political moves will push our authorities into action, and also raise awareness among the population about these issues and bring about change.
Over the last few years, a series of motions have been submitted calling for state intervention to no avail. While a sugar tax is not yet on the agenda, the Parliament is planning possible restrictions on advertising to children.
A majority of Parliament does not want market regulation for ideological reasons. And there are lobby groups linked to sugar production and processing and the food industry who have friends in Parliament. Lobbies are important sources of expertise and information, but when industry interests become dominant and influence public health and spending, that's not okay.
We showed this politician the soda from Switzerland, containing twice the sugar content as the British version, and the World Bank report on the impact of the sugar tax.
The taxation of sugar-sweetened beverages is internationally recommended as a priority component of a comprehensive approach to preventing and controlling obesity.
It is encouraging reading.
It clearly says that hidden sugars are a disaster and that the sugar content has to be reduced in the interest of public health concerns and public spending. But that's not going to be of interest for the majority of Parliament.
How does Parliament explain their existence? We put that question to 10 Swiss politicians who are also members of a soft drinks lobby group representing the likes of Coca-Cola, Red Bull, and domestic sugary beverage suppliers. A statement by the group claims,
"We are active and transparent participants in the political and social debate."
and yet, of the 10 members of Parliament we asked, none agreed to an interview.
Of course.
For consumers facing a constant flood of advertising, making an informed choice isn't so straightforward, as we see at this Geneva school. A presentation teaches pupils about the amounts of sugar and fat in processed foods. Over here are products that ideally they should avoid. On the other side are healthy options, the kinds of foods they should be consuming instead of potato chips and sugary drinks. The children show us what they normally eat.
Est-ce que tu peux nous dire?
Can you show us what you have there?
Ceux qui ne voient pas. Banane parce qu'elle a une sœur.
Since its introduction
Wow.
15 years ago, the
So healthy.
program has spread and is now being used by 1 in 3 Geneva schools.
Le comportement alimentaire est quelque chose qui se construit dans la petite
Eating behaviour is formed in early childhood, before the age of 10, when most of our habits develop.
Notre agroalimentaire est très très bien construit.
The food industry has understood this very well and targets children with aggressive marketing to get them used to ultra-processed foods and neatly packaged snacks.
Alimentation ultra transformée, à tous ces petits goûters emballés.
Keep all the 10-year-olds away from
Which one
these
first when you're in a store?
De ce qu'il y a sur la table.
unhealthy food.
Dans l'ordre.
Kinder Bueno, candies, M&Ms, and apples.
Or at least control, I think.
Chips, waffles, candies, and M&Ms. That's all.
Why?
They look tasty.
Maybe, I don't know.
And you?
Everything over here.
Most people have cravings for sweet, salty, and fatty foods. But for some, like Rebecca, these cravings can become a serious health problem. For 20 years, she's been suffering from a compulsive eating disorder. Binge eating on a regular basis, consuming enormous amounts in a very short period of time.
Ça s'est un peu installé comme ça.
It became a habit. When the emotions got too much, food became my refuge. Sometimes it felt like a complete disaster inside me, and this was the only way I could cope.
Et pour moi, c'est devenu le moyen de gérer tout ça.
Damn.
Rebecca has been out shopping to show us what she would typically consume when emotional stress led to binge eating. A courageous step on her part.
So you'd eat all of this in one sitting?
Alors, maybe not everything, but most of it.
Totalité, mais une grande partie, oui.
And how do you proceed? What would you start with?
Là, je commence
Ravioli.
les raviolis
The ravioli with meat?
avec la...
Yes, with cream sauce.
How much?
The whole pack.
Et le
Plus grated cheese.
gruyère entier.
Also the whole
La
pack?
totale.
Yes, everything has to go.
Oui.
Et puis après,
And then? You carry on eating?
vous arrêtez un moment?
It depends on how much room I still have in my stomach.
L'estomac, s'il peut encore accueillir quelque chose. Bon, déjà, les petits, ceux-là, ils ont déjà été mangés.
These I would have eaten on the way here,
En entier.
the whole lot.
Oui, oui, ouais. Ensuite, je
Then
pense
perhaps a
après,
couple of madeleines,
peut-être une ou deux madeleines.
and then some cookies,
Après,
the whole
un
pack.
paquet de biscuits, l'un ou l'autre, c'est égal, en entier.
En entier.
Ouais.
Hein. Et là, vous.
And how do you feel then?
It's quite a lot of
Ah, bah,
Not good.
Enfin,
a lot of
The
items.
first few bites are always nice. You have the taste, and you enjoy eating these products. But after a while, there's no more pleasure.
manger ces aliments. Au bout d'un moment, il y a plus de plaisir.
And then it's simply not possible for you to stop eating?
Non.
No,
C'est
I don't stop until I have to, physically.
Quand l'estomac,
When the
il
stomach
Dang.
ache is so bad that I can't sit or lie down.
Oh, poor
pas
thing.
avoir de douleur.
And you feel ashamed?
Oh,
Yes,
beaucoup.
absolutely.
Très grande honte.
That's why I do it in secret.
Je le ferai en cachette.
I feel ashamed because nobody's asking me to eat all of this stuff in these excessive quantities.
That's so sad.
Me demande de manger ça, et puis
That
c'est
is
des
really,
quantités
really sad.
beaucoup trop grandes.
Why are you telling us about this now?
Ben,
Saying it out loud is part of my journey.
chemin
Acknowledging it and admitting to myself that I have a problem.
c'est aussi la
I'm trying to find a way out and a solution. And I want to tell people that this isn't easy. It's not just a question of willpower.
Et aussi de dire aux...
A lot of it takes place behind closed
C'est pas
doors.
si simple. C'est pas qu'une question de volonté. Et oui, il y a beaucoup de choses qui se passent à l'abri des regards.
Rebecca also sought help from the obesity clinic at Lausanne University Hospital. She's now working with a psychiatrist on her relationship to food in order to prevent future binges.
So, how have you been doing since last week?
Ça va.
Good.
L'ingestion est tellement rapide et le type d'aliments.
The intake of food is extremely quick, and the foods are often those that generate a feeling of excitement and craving. In many cases, sweet, fatty foods.
Sucré, gras.
It's at this point that they lose control and are unable to stop.
C'est-à-dire qu'elle ne peut pas s'arrêter.
Countless experiments have been conducted on people losing control when consuming particular substances. This rat is quick to learn that pressing a pedal will reward it with a dose of sugar.
Oh my god, I've heard about this study.
Frantically. A similar experiment showed that rats prefer consuming sugar to cocaine.
Whoa, that's crazy. And here I was thinking cocaine was more addictive.
The power of sugar is far more important than previously thought.
But I'm curious, is that actually the case? Is sugar more addictive than cocaine? Is that a subjective question? Debated topic. Okay. But comparisons to drugs like cocaine remain debated. Yeah, okay, never mind.
As was confirmed by this experiment.
Ne vient que de me conforter.
Bonnemont Boutrel heads the Neurological Research Unit for Addictive and Eating Disorders at Lausanne University Hospital. His area of focus is the mechanism behind addiction and loss of control.
Les adaptations que l'on peut mettre en évidence dans le cerveau d'une
We see
personne
changes in the brain of someone who cannot control their intake of fatty and sugary foods.
sont tout à fait comparables aux adaptations
They're comparable to those seen with excessive and uncontrolled consumption of alcohol, cocaine, or tobacco.
d'alcool, de cocaïne ou même de tabac. On peut assez
We can
légitimement
draw a parallel between the agri-food industry and the tobacco industry
l'agroalimentaire et
in
l'industrie.
terms of the way they've optimized their products
Ils ont optimisé leurs produits, modifié
and how they've changed the very nature of their product. In this case, ultra-processing. Tobacco companies add texturizers and flavors to optimize the nicotine efficacy. The objective in both cases is to retain
Wait,
their
what are you saying?
products or tobacco.
L'adaptation que l'on peut mettre en évidence dans le cerveau d'une
We see
personne
changes in the brain of someone who cannot control their intake of fatty and sugary foods.
sont tout à fait comparables aux adaptations
And they're comparable to those seen with excessive and uncontrolled consumption of alcohol, cocaine, or tobacco.
d'alcool, de cocaïne
Yeah.
ou même de tabac. On peut assez
We
légitimement
can draw a parallel between the agri-food industry and the tobacco industry
l'agroalimentaire et
in
l'industrie.
terms of the way they've optimized their products
Optimiser leurs produits, modifier
and how they've changed the very nature of their product. In this case, Ultra-processing. Tobacco companies add texturizers and flavors to optimize the nicotine efficacy. The objective in both cases is to retain their consumers and increase sales.
Voire peut-être d'accroître leur part de marché.
Journalist Michael Moss, who has dubbed sugar, salt, and fat an unholy trinity, wanted to understand how U.S. food engineers develop products and investigated many industry laboratories.
The industry hates the word addictive, right? And you won't see them in their laboratories, talking to each other, go like, how do we make this new potato chip like more addictive? They use other terms to describe their efforts to maximize the results. They talk about engineering craveability, for example, right? They talk about engineering, one of my favorite expressions is more-ishness, right? As in getting us to want more and more of the product.
Are manufacturers deliberately targeting vulnerable consumers?
Right, the industry has a formula they call sort of the 80-20 rule, which is that 20% of their customers will be eating 80% of the product. So a few people eating a whole lot, and they call those people the heavy users, and they will target them through marketing, knowing that those people, for various reasons, are vulnerable to overeating their products. If they focus on that 20% of their customers who are eating 80% of the product, they're going to maximize their sales.
What about Nestle, the world's biggest food corporation? Is it targeting people prone to excessive eating? And why does the company continue marketing products that it has itself called unhealthy? During a one-hour interview, we repeatedly asked questions like these, and were given almost always the same answer.
D'abord, chez Nestlé, ce qu'on aime, c'est d'aider
Nestle wants to help people to eat well, which means finding the right balance between enjoyment and health.
la santé. La philosophie de Nestlé, comme je
Nestle's philosophy is to help consumers eat well, combining enjoyment with a balanced diet and sound health.
Et la santé. Et c'est pourquoi une compagnie comme
And that's why Nestle offers both a range of affordable and nutritious products and gourmet products that should be consumed in moderation.
Qui doivent être consommés en modération.
Okay.
But it's known in practice that some of your consumers are heavy users, people who eat excessively.
Exactly.
Aren't these consumers essentially addicted to your products?
Pour nous, en fait,
that's why we've been introducing educational programs. So,
do you think they're addicted?
Accro? Non, je crois pas.
Addicted? No, I don't think so. Not
to. What? I mean, come on. You can't say that. That's just not true. To say your consumers aren't addicted to your products. Like, guys, come on. We know that's not true.
To Nestle products, at least. Our products are not developed with that in mind.
Sure. Okay. Even if it's not intended, it still happens. Come on, Nestle. Come on.
Une alimentation saine et équilibrée.
Each manufacturer has its own strategy for seducing our appetites. Michael Moss
That's
has no doubt
crazy.
the most vulnerable consumers are key to the food giant's market success.
In the sense of defining the word addiction as being kind of this repetitive behavior that some people find difficult to quit, I think that absolutely defines the business model of the processed food industry. Spending every waking hour engineering and marketing their products in a way that causes us not just to love them, but to want more and more.
So what action is Switzerland taking? In 2020, the government stated its opposition to the law in Mexico requiring food manufacturers to declare excessive levels of sugar, fat, and salt. They do so using these black warning labels. What prompted Switzerland to get involved? Several dozen internal emails obtained thanks to the country's Freedom of Information Act show that Nestle has been approaching the government with its concerns. They include this correspondence between the Federal Department of Foreign Affairs and the State Secretariat for Economic Affairs, or SECO.
I was able to speak with, who confirmed to me the gravity of the problem and the urgent need for action. Nestle has approached SECO directly to ask for the support of Swiss officials.
SECO refused our requests for an interview, unlike Nestle.
Donc, nous, on était d'accord avec l'objectif.
We agreed with the aim of the law, which was to decrease obesity rates and help consumers eat healthy.
C'était l'exécution, la mise en œuvre.
What we didn't agree with was the implementation of this law, because it doesn't help consumers in their choices.
Proposé ou qui est proposé au Mexique.
The proposed labeling in Mexico is merely an alarm system and does not encourage consumers to make better choices.
Le consommateur à faire un meilleur choix.
Isn't an alert necessary when 76% of the population is overweight or obese?
C'est le moment de mettre des alarmes.
Je pense qu'il faut absolument.
Absolutely. You're right.
On doit
We need to set up educational programs to reduce obesity in the population, to help people make better consumer choices.
So, Nestle wants to create support programs.
I'm sorry, but does that even work? Like, just educating? It's like just throwing information. Are people going to follow it? I mean, probably not, right? I think people know that excessive intake of sugar is probably bad for you. I think people have a general idea. But I don't know. This doesn't seem to, like, I feel like the company should probably be more responsible. Why, sell something damaging or something that helps an issue persist? Like, why continue doing so if you could just do otherwise? That to me just makes more sense.
Programs? What is certain is that the multinational wants to block any statutory requirements. Among the messages sent by Nestle to the Swiss government is this memo.
The proposal is too radical and restrictive and lacks scientific rationale. The warning messages are susceptible of creating unnecessary fear in consumers.
We showed the memo to Mexico's Deputy Minister of Health.
Mi reacción es producir una risa trágica.
My first response is to laugh, but it's a tragic laugh. I laugh because of the rudeness and stubbornness of the food industry. In this case, a very influential multinational corporation. The companies have spent many years developing this rhetoric. I'm not surprised to see them trying to deceive the public, claiming that labeling is not beneficial.
Exactly. Wait, hang on. Isn't it ironic that the Nestle sort of opposes this, right? And then they say to educate, when you can educate like in stores in a way where you just label the items in the way Mexico are running it. Like, it doesn't make sense to me. If you're talking about education, why not do it in your with your own products, right? Like, doesn't that just help everyone? I don't know. It sounds a bit ironic to me.
Nestle has now even improved the formulas for a range of its products in order to avoid the dreaded black labels.
Es entendible que las empresas.
It's understandable for companies to protect their interests. But economic and private interests cannot be placed above the public interest. That's why we talk about separating the economic interests from political power. The political power of a sovereign nation involves protecting, defending, and promoting public interests.
And chief among those interests is protecting children. Nathalie Fapot-Lambert is a pediatrician who spent decades counseling overweight minors, helping them in their struggle toward a healthier diet.
In the past, we used to have children who were slightly overweight in relation to their age and height. But today, we have children who are massively overweight, by 20 or 30 kilos or more. What upsets me the most is the fact that children are being manipulated. They are victims of this food system. They can't help it. Often we blame the parents for making the wrong choices and buying unhealthy products. But it's extremely difficult for them to make the right choice. The labeling isn't always clear to everyone. We're violating the human rights of children. And you have to ask how far things will go. Are we willing to sacrifice one or even two generations?
Real.
For years now, I've been unable to look strangers in the eye. I've suffered so much from the mocking and the insults that I've retreated into my own bubble. Sometimes I don't even think of myself as a person. I'm just this ugly thing.
What if you didn't have your children?
I'd have let myself go completely and would have been dead years ago. I didn't love myself enough to find an escape. I only did it for my children because I love them and I want them to have a normal mother.
Wow, that was quite insightful. Crazy. Oh.
France imports $1 billion of butter.
Alright, let's let that play out.
Its citizens eat so much of it that it's led to shortages. In Asia, sales of durian fruit are booming. China alone spends billions on them each year. We traveled the world to see how billion-dollar food industries work and meet some of the people powering them. Our first stop is the Dominican Republic, where the world's largest aloe vera farm harvests and juices the thorny leaves. Universal Aloe's farm covers 5,000 acres here in the Dominican Republic. While there are hundreds of types of aloe plants, this farm chose Aloe barbadensis Miller because it has 20 amino acids.
Minerals, vitamins, carbohydrates, hormones, and other bioactive substances.
Once the baby plants are in the ground, it takes about 8 months for them to mature. About 750 people harvest these fields. They're dispatched in groups, harvesting section by section.
Siempre uno le quita la penca que están llenas y uno la corta y le quita la punta, quita las espinas. En la parte de abajo es en el tronco, como digamos. O sea, le cortamos las pencas maduras, yo la agarro penca por penca para no maltratar la mata, la que va a quedar.
The cut leaves won't grow back, but the plants will grow new ones. It will take them about a week to harvest just this one area.
La caloría, el sol es demasiado fuerte, es lo difícil de este trabajo, pero uno ya está acostumbrado a cortarlo porque son cosas que uno lo necesita.
One by one, workers pick up all the harvested leaves and toss them into a truck. Those leaves head to a processing plant 2 miles up the road.
Aquí llega diariamente 260,000 libras de pencas frescas, como le expliqué en la
Setting up a poll if anyone's interested. Anyone watching?
de jugo fresco para exportar. El proceso se inicia con el lavado y desinfección de la planta
The leaves go through a bath of chlorinated salt water to kill off any little critters from the field that may be hanging around. Then they get pinned. This jiggly fillet is the gel inside the aloe leaf. That's what's used in real aloe vera juice, gel, or skincare products.
Nosotros utilizamos la mano de obra humana para sacar el filete de la hoja de aloe vera.
To do it, they need a really good knife.
Yo lo apodo el rayo, porque cuando yo lo cojo, yo siento que voy rapidísimo con él. Ella hace trabajo solo por mí.
They might make it look easy, but filleting takes precision.
También tiene que estar exactamente en el punto para poder sacar el cristal del aloe bien y perfecto. Mayormente hay mucha diferencia. Cuando viene la sábila grande se siente bien porque uno rinde más, pero cuando viene la sábila pequeña, uno pasa mucho trabajo para filetearla y se siente como débil, se le va el deseo a uno de trabajar.
And they have to move fast, filleting 3,500 leaves a day.
Okay, there is a poll. If you do head to slido.com and just put in the code 4232130, you can have your opinion, if you'd like, on who should be more responsible or who should take more responsibility to in curbing the obesity rate. Whoops, need to edit that. Completely anonymous, so if you are worried about that, completely fine. I can't even see it or who votes. You don't have to create an account or anything like that. I should have edited that. But yeah, feel free if you'd like, and we'll just continue watching a few other food-related stuff. Hopefully I don't get hungry watching this. Oh my god, this would be so ironic if I actually start, like, eating this sort of things. But hey, I do love my sweets, but gotta be more... Gotta chill out with it. Alrighty, let's see. Go for... Should I do another food one? Let's probably switch it up a bit. 2 most inflammatory ingredients in your diet: sugar and oils. Crop food industry, hidden dangers. Additives. Why is it so difficult to eat healthy? That sounds interesting. Please explain. I am curious.
Take one, Mark.
The 20th century gave us so many misconceptions when it came to health.
1 egg equals 5 cigarettes.
Eggs cannot legally even be called safe. Cutting down on meat is a good idea.
So, is the pendulum swinging back in the opposite direction? Where are we since the last movie came out? Is there progress? Has meat made a comeback? In some cases, I can say yes.
I swear by the ketogenic diet.
I hear more doctors talking about it.
The low-carbohydrate keto community is based on science.
And I can see a few things moving in the direction that people want to see it move into.
There is a bottom-up revolution going on.
But then I see the other side of it. There was another vegan propaganda movie that came out in this past year. Surprise, surprise, there was a product hooked to it.
The Impossible Burger is the world's only burger that looks, handles, smells, cooks, and tastes like ground beef from cows.
People are becoming guinea pigs.
Completely replace animals as a food production technology by 2035.
In In Fat Part 1, we talk about the war for information, but I actually think we also live in a war with ourselves. It's almost like we're gaming the system of our own bodies. We're trying to get our system to do what it's not supposed to do. Eat this, eat that. Don't eat this, don't eat that.
Our program is known as a starch-based diet.
Take this supplement. It'll make your muscles grow bigger. We have more questions than ever. And the world always speeds up and it gets more frenzied all the time. And sometimes even the people who are so-called experts don't know what's going on.
You suck it all up.
This study says this. That study says that. Well, that study wasn't done correctly. This is healthy. That's not healthy. The answers we're searching for seem to have these long, winding roads that eventually lead to nothing, but maybe it doesn't have to be so hard. In this movie, we're going to expand on what we talked about in Fat Part 1. We're going to talk to the same experts you saw before. But let them stretch out a little bit.
Great.
We're going to discuss why some of the things we believe are wrong.
Fat tends to cause you to be fat.
We're going to also get into why some of these things are right.
Based on the research, we cannot say...
Wait.
To why some of the things we believe are wrong.
Fat tends to cause you to be fat.
We're going to also get into...
Really? Okay. Gee, thanks, dude.
To why some of these things are right.
Based on the research, we cannot say with any certainty that eating red or processed meat causes cancer, diabetes, or heart disease.
And also why there's so much confusion between the two. It doesn't have to be that divisive.
My name is Nina Teichels. I'm a science journalist and author of a book called The Big Fat Surprise. I'm also the executive director of a group called the Nutrition Coalition, which aims to ensure that our nutrition policy is evidence-based.
Nina Teichels was a one-time vegan. She crossed over. She crossed the aisle, and that led her into 10 years of research. She went through all the papers. She went through all the studies to come back to figure out where we had gone wrong. And it's the work like her book, Big Fat Surprise, that has led a lot of this pendulum swing, in my opinion, to start moving in the right direction.
I got into this field just completely by accident. I was doing a series of investigative food articles for Gourmet magazine, and one of them that was assigned to me was on trans fats. Well, what are trans fats? I had no idea. Researching that story really plunged me into the whole world of dietary fat, which is the subject that Americans in nutrition have obsessed about most. And that really led me down the rabbit hole. For nearly a decade, I researched everything I could find about dietary fat and cholesterol. When I started doing my research, I couldn't believe the kind of reactions that I got from interviewing scientists. I mean, I'm the daughter of a scientist, and in my father's dreams journal, if you open up, there are math equations. I always thought that science was full of people like him, who rationally, soberly would discuss interesting ideas and consider other ideas and change their minds based on the scientific observations. And instead, in nutrition science, I couldn't believe what I found. People who were afraid to talk to me. People who said, if you're going to take that line on dietary fat, I can't even talk to you. There is some huge story here. If people are afraid to talk to me, that means there's a really big story here.
Saturated fats, butter, lard, cheese, fatty beef, and poultry with the skin on, all said to be bad for your heart. But you should replace most saturated fats with more monounsaturated healthy fats, which help reduce your risk of heart attack and stroke. Limit red meat, dark poultry meat, or poultry with the skin on to a serving the size of a deck of cards per day.
In good science, you try to do everything you can not to go public prematurely, because as soon as you go public, as soon as you claim you've discovered something you haven't, or you've realized something that you don't have the evidence to support, all these consequences kick in and make it virtually impossible to back out of. My name is Gary Taubes. I'm an investigative journalist, co-founder of a not-for-profit research organization called the Nutrition Science Initiative, author of Good Calories, Bad Calories, of Why We Get Fat, of The Case Against Sugar.
Gary Taubes is largely considered a lightning rod. Gary has never shied away from media. He will go up against anyone because what he has on his side is a little thing called facts.
I often ask myself when I was writing Good Calories, Bad Calories, it's like
Okay,
I
I'll
have
be
friends who are
right
sort of
back.
conspiratorial.
Need to get something to eat or drink. So BRB in a few seconds. Let's see this thing doesn't even work. Da, da, da. Okay, what the hell? Bruh. Okay. Camera, what are you doing? Okay, there we go. Why is there like it's just one piece of okay. Alrighty. Let me just audio check real quick. Okay, it's fine. Also, I just realized. Oh crap, camera again, bro. That's a very not so great place to pause the camera, bro. Okay, anyways. That's fine. I don't know why it changes, like. Okay, let's see. The chat thing that's quite awful. Need to fix that. Let me just quickly fix that actually.
conspiratorial turns of mind where they think people do things because they're venal and they're getting paid by industry. And I just think that I don't see any conspiracy there. I don't do things because it's like away from bulbs salaries, really.
Poultry meat it had bats.
If your friends led me that really to me is
moving big figure, vegan.
or the exact title.
Right, wrong.
Fat tends to cause you to be fat.
We're going to discuss why some of the things we believe are wrong.
Fat tends to cause you to be fat.
Wait, this particular clip? Apparently that's... I mean, that makes sense, right? That's not entirely true. There's probably multiple factors. That'll lead to being overweight, like stress, sugars, I guess. Let me just double check. Okay, so not entirely true. Fats, so it's pretty much calories minus burn, pretty much. And fats do have more calories per gram than any other nutrients, so overeating it is very easy. Then that makes sense. I think this is too simplish by this guy. Oversimplified.
Why some of these things are right.
Based on the research, we cannot say with any certainty that eating red or processed meat causes cancer, diabetes, or heart disease.
And also why there's so much confusion between the two. It doesn't have to be that divisive.
My name is Nina Teichels. I'm a science journalist and author of a book called The Big Fat Surprise. I'm also the executive director of a group called the Nutrition Coalition, which aims to ensure that our nutrition...
Jeez, excuse me.
You clicked on this video to finally understand the real story behind Las Plagas.
Gloria Las Plagas.
Center of Resident Evil 4. And you're in the right place. To understand why everything happened, we have to go back much further than the game ever shows us. What most players don't realize is that Las Plagas didn't begin with Sadler, or the village, or even the Salazar family. Its origins go back thousands of years, buried deep beneath a remote valley in Spain, sealed inside amber long before anyone even knew the parasite existed. And once you see where the Plagas came from, the entire storyline, the cult, the mutations, the kidnapping, the bioweapons, starts to make a lot more sense. There's a piece of history hidden beneath the castle that completely changes how you think about Resident Evil 4, and most people miss it entirely. So get comfortable, relax, and let's start from the very beginning, long before Leon ever set foot in that village. If you enjoy deep, calm, Resident Evil lore, feel free to subscribe. It helps me keep making these for you. Part 1. The Ancient Origins of Las Plagas. The horrific cycle of bioterror that plagues the world of Resident Evil is most frequently associated with the synthetic, man-made viral outbreak of the T virus and the G virus. But the parasitic threat known as Las Plagas, Spanish for the plagues, possesses a far more mysterious, disturbing, and deeply ancient origin. Unlike the laboratory-engineered viruses of the Umbrella Corporation, the Plagas are a product of natural, biological evolution, entombed for millions of years, before being violently awakened by the ruthless ambition of the Los Illuminados cult. The initial discovery and the geological evidence surrounding the parasite's origins are absolutely crucial to understanding its unique nature, its immense resilience, and its profound, lasting impact on the global BOW threat. The initial finding of the dormant parasites occurred in a remote, highly isolated rural valley of Spain, a region characterized by deep forests, towering mountains, and critically, extensive subterranean cave systems. These caves lay directly beneath the grounds where the imposing Salazar Castle would eventually be constructed. The parasites were not found in the form of conventional spores or active biological matter, but preserved within massive, dense deposits of ancient amber, the fossilized tree resin that often preserves prehistoric life with astonishing clarity. The unique environmental conditions of the cave, likely a combination of low oxygen and mineral-rich sediment, allowed the resin to petrify over geological epochs, perfectly encasing the plagas in a state of suspended animation. These caves lay directly beneath the grounds where the imposing Salazar Castle would eventually be constructed. The parasites were not found in the form of conventional spores or active biological matter, but preserved within massive, dense deposits of ancient amber, the fossilized tree resin that often preserves prehistoric life with astonishing clarity. The unique environmental conditions of the cave, likely a combination of low oxygen and mineral-rich sediment, allowed the resin to petrify over geological epochs, perfectly encasing the plagas in a state of suspended animation. The geological age of these amber deposits is staggering, suggesting that Las Plagas are millions of years old, a biological life form that existed long before the dawn of human civilization in the Iberian Peninsula. The existence of a highly organized, complex parasite predating human history presents a significant scientific puzzle, immediately distinguishing it from the recent viral outbreaks caused by the progenitor virus. This age implies an evolutionary resilience and an inherent biological sophistication that far exceeds anything engineered in an umbrella lab. The fact that the parasite could remain viable for such an immense span of time, merely waiting for the right conditions to reawaken, speaks to its status as a foundational, primal threat. Further evidence of the plaga's ancient influence was found in the primitive artistic records left by the region's earliest human inhabitants. Within the deepest chambers of the caves, protected from the elements, the archaeologists found crude yet detailed cave art that depicted sacrificial rituals and figures interacting with a large, ominous, tree-like organism. This organism is believed to represent the massive centralized structure of a queen plaga, or a primary, fungal body responsible for producing and disseminating the initial spores. The depictions suggest that early rituals and figures. The archaeologists found crude yet detailed cave art that depicted sacrificial rituals and figures interacting with a large, ominous, tree-like organism. This organism is believed to represent the massive centralized structure of a queen plaga, or a primary, fungal body responsible for producing and disseminating the initial spores. The depictions suggest that early human inhabitants of the valley were aware of the parasite's existence and, critically, had already begun to worship its power, performing elaborate rituals that likely involved human sacrifice to appease the biological entity, an early, dark precursor to the cult that would later emerge. The symbiotic relationship depicted in the cave art between the parasite and the early human population, or a primary, span of time, merely waiting for the right conditions to reawaken, speaks to its status as a foundational, primal threat. Further evidence of the plaga's ancient influence was found in the primitive artistic records left by the region's earliest human inhabitants. Within the deepest chambers of the caves, protected from the elements, the archaeologists found crude yet detailed cave art that depicted sacrificial rituals and figures interacting with a large, ominous, tree-like organism. This organism is believed to represent the massive centralized structure of a queen plaga, or a primary, fungal body responsible for producing and disseminating for the right conditions to reawaken, speaks to its status as a foundational, primal threat. Further evidence of the plaga's ancient influence was found in the primitive artistic records left by the region's earliest human inhabitants. Within the deepest chambers of the caves, protected from the elements, the archaeologists found crude yet detailed cave art that depicted sacrificial rituals and figures interacting with a large, ominous, tree-like organism. This organism is believed to represent the massive centralized structure of a queen plaga, or a primary, fungal body responsible for producing and disseminating the initial spores. The depictions suggest that early human inhabitants of the valley were aware of the parasite's existence and, critically, had already begun to worship its power, performing elaborate rituals that likely involved human sacrifice to appease the biological entity, an early, dark precursor to the cult that would later...
So the earlier... So I'm assuming this is prior to this Los Illuminados and the whole, like, Sadler followers and stuff. So before there was like cave paintings of this thing, and then of like sacrifice and stuff, and this just followed from that. Is that what they said?
The symbiotically involved human sacrifice to appease, performing elaborate rituals that were aware of the parasite's existence and, critically, inhabiting the initial spores. The depictions suggest that early humanating the initial spore, fungal bodies sent tree-like official rituals and figures interacting with cave art that depicted sacrificial rituals and figures interacting with a large, ominous, tree-like organism. This organism is believed to represent the massive centralized structure of a queen plaga, or a primary, fungal body responsible for producing and disseminating the initial spores. The depictions suggest that early human inhabitants of the valley were aware of the parasite's existence and, critically, had already begun.
Okay, so early human society found this plaga
to worship its power.
So those, the initial cult, pretty much.
Performing elaborate rituals that likely involved human sacrifice to appease the biological entity. An early, dark precursor to the cult that would later emerge. The symbiotic relationship depicted in the cave art between the parasite and the early human population confirms that the area was not just a geological storage facility, but a place of ancient, sustained religious devotion and biological influence. The early inhabitants recognized the immense corrupting power of the parasite to control life and manipulate the mind, interpreting this biological function through a supernatural or divine lens. The plagas were seen not as a pestilence, but as a god, a divine entity that demanded reverence and sacrifice in exchange for a terrifying form of enlightenment or power. The discovery of Las Plagas in amber thus establishes a terrifying biological precedent within the Resident Evil universe. It demonstrates that the world contains endemic, natural bioweapons that are far older and potentially
Wait, so these guys learn about the... Oh, what's going on? It's a bit of a... bitrate issue. Oh, yikes. That's not so good. Let me just check the audio. Wait, so these guys learn about the... It seems okay. Oh, geez, my throat. But, So these guys learn about the plaga, and then so the initial um like an initial, I guess, group or society that learned about it, and then Los Illuminados found out about it and its powers. The initial group kind of understood it, or not understood it, sorry, treated it as like some sort of entity, like godlike entity, and then Los Illuminados followed after. That's what I'm getting, but I'm not 100% sure if that's the case. Anyways, continuing
more
on.
resilient than anything Spencer or Wesker ever created. The natural containment provided by the amber proved to be the only thing protecting humanity for millennia. The reawakening of the dormant plagas in the modern era, facilitated by the ambition of Osmond Sadler and the misguided loyalty of Ramon Salazar, was not an accident of science, but the deliberate unearthing of a geological and spiritual catastrophe, setting the stage for the new, parasitic age of bioterror that would
Whoops. So the amber is... Oh, shit, hang on. Just a sec. Okay. Things are more stable now. So the amber is a highly concentrated master strain sample of the Las Plagas parasite encased in fossilized tree. It acts like a prehistoric mosquito in Jurassic Park. It contains a rare dominant species of the parasite that grants the host mind control powers. So right, that makes sense. I think so. So the plaga that you deal with in the game, these are the wait, not is that right? Say non-dominant or like the well, I'll just say non-dominant for now. So that's the non-dominant plaga, and then so the amber contains the monster strain for mind control. Does Sadler have that in his crops? No, he does. Yeah, it holds the exact dominant organ found in the cult leader Osman Sadler. Yeah, and then the dominant plaga allows the host to control all other infected ganados, villagers. So that's why Wesker wanted that for like that hive mind control sort of thing. Okay, that makes sense.
challenged the world's most experienced BOW operative, Leon S. Kennedy. Part 2. The History of Los Illuminados. The dark, fanatical organization known as Los Illuminados, which translates chillingly to the Enlightened Ones, is not a recent splinter group or a modern terrorist cell. It is a religious cult with roots that extend back through the centuries, intrinsically tied to the discovery and worship of the Las Plagas parasite. The cult's history provides the crucial human context for the eventual outbreak, demonstrating how a primal biological threat became weaponized by radical, dogmatic belief. The narrative of...
Wait, hang on. So I was curious as to whether there was like I was saying, like an ancient group. Yes, there was an unnamed indigenous civilization in Spain. This group lived in caves and deep caverns under what is now known as the Salazar Castle. Oh, interesting. They worship Las Plagas as the divine power and perform ritual sacrifices. They carved symbols resembling the mature parasite into the cliff dwellings. The Salazar family viewed this group as dangerous. Pagans. The first Lord Salazar, a holy war against them. The Salazar family won. They buried and sealed the parasite deep underground to keep them away from humanity. Okay, that makes sense. So the Salazar family beat this unnamed like Spanish do you call them group? Yeah, ancient group, and then buried the plague. I think I read that somewhere in the game. I don't remember what file, but
The cult is one of relentless devotion,
Anyways.
ruthless suppression, and a final, catastrophic resurgence fueled by misplaced loyalty and modern ambition. The Los Iluminados cult originated in the same remote, isolated Spanish valley where the ancient Las Plagas were discovered. From its earliest inception, the cult's core ideology was built upon the veneration of these amber-encased parasites, viewing them not as biological organisms, but as divine power, a tangible manifestation of a greater cosmic will. This profound misconception shaped their entire belief.
Oh god, can I just say I hate this particular enemy. Oh my god. Oh, it's so annoying to deal with. I think you can parry them, but oh my god, when I have a gun that has horrible fire rate, aka the hand cannon, oh my god, is that horrible, especially when your aim is not great, and because it takes so much time to be accurate, like the crosshair, like when it's closes in on the target. Oh my god, is that horrible. It's horrible to deal with these guys.
System.
It's too fast.
They believed that to truly achieve spiritual devotion and enlightenment, one had to surrender their physical body and their very soul to the parasite.
That's crazy. So someone pretty much went, oh, look at this parasite. Oh, how godly. Let's worship it. I think we need to sacrifice ourselves or chop our heads off or some shit like that.
Allowing the Plaga to integrate with them and guide their actions. This was considered the ultimate act of faith, a pathway to becoming enlightened and part of a collective consciousness.
I wonder who came up with that
shit. The cult's activities, particularly their public rituals and their proselytization, eventually drew the ire of the region's dominant religious authority, the Catholic faith. The Los Iluminados' practices, which likely included human sacrifice as depicted in the ancient cave art, and the direct assimilation of a biological entity, were deemed not only heretical, but a direct threat to the established order and the spiritual well-being of the population. The cult's growing influence and its rejection of conventional religious dogma were perceived as a dangerous rebellion, leading to inevitable violent confrontation. Accounts of the exact date of this historical conflict vary, lost to the mists of time and the deliberate suppression of the cult's existence. However, the outcome is clear. The first Castell...
Wait, oh my god. God, I think it hit me. It's like in the opening scene, where you see the, I believe she was a traveler or like hiker. If you, after you beat the Lago, I shouldn't say much in case people have not seen it. I mean, if you're watching this video, you probably shouldn't, or you have played the game. I think you get the document about like, oh, hang on, is that it? Actually, I may be talking out of my ass. I'm not gonna say anything, but I could have sworn that there was like a document about some sort of fight, or maybe I watched a video. Actually, I don't know. Let's move on.
Salazar
Anyways,
family, a powerful and devout lord who ruled the region from his newly constructed castle, led a brutal, uncompromising crusade to eradicate the cult. This was not merely a theological dispute. It was a military campaign aimed at physically destroying the Los Iluminados and permanently sealing away their blasphemous gods. The Castellans' forces systematically purged the valley of the cult's visible presence, executing its members and dismantling its places of worship. The most critical act of this crusade was the sealing of the leftover parasites. The Salazar forces meticulously gathered the remaining amber-encased plagas and buried them deep within the subterranean vaults and mine systems beneath the newly built castle grounds. This monumental task effectively wiped out the cult's public presence for centuries, turning the Los Illuminados.
Wait. Couldn't they have just destroyed the Amber? I don't know. Is that possible? Could the Amber be destroyed in RE4? Oh, right, targeted radiation. Yeah, couldn't. Oh, right, there was no, like, okay, makes sense. They buried it because they couldn't destroy it with radiation. I mean, it's like ancient centuries. How can you eradicate
into little more than a
with
dark, forgotten
radiation
legend,
if you don't have it?
A chilling tale
I don't know how
whispered only by the
make a
most
machine out of
ancient
it.
residents of the
Makes
valley.
sense.
For generations, the Salazar family took immense pride in their ancestors' righteous act, believing they had forever imprisoned a demonic force. However, the cult's ideology and its foundational texts, though driven underground, never truly died. Surviving...
Wait, so if they couldn't destroy the Amber, well, they should have destroyed the text at least. Like, I don't know. I guess, yes, that kills the purpose of the game. I know.
Remnants,
but
or perhaps just the memory of their beliefs, persisted in the darkest corners of the region, passed down through secretive lineages, waiting for the opportune moment. The centuries of suppression merely forced the Los Illuminados into an invisible, enduring existence, allowing their fanaticism to fester and become even more extreme, culminating in the rise of a new prophet, Osmond Sadler, who would finally fulfill their ancient, terrible ambition. The history of Los Illuminados is a testament to the enduring power of belief, even when that belief is founded on the worship of a monstrous biological parasite. Part 3. Ramon Salazar's Bloodline and the Castle Legacy.
Call me Ramon. Genuinely, bro, talks a lot.
The Salazar family and their imposing castle were more than just feudal rulers of a Spanish valley. They were the self-appointed hereditary guardians against a primal evil, the Las Plagas parasite. For generations, the bloodline of the Salazar Castellans, counts or wardens, bore the immense responsibility of keeping the demons, as they referred to the parasites, sealed beneath their ancestral seat. This legacy of custodianship, however, would ultimately be broken by the final tragic figure of the lineage, Ramon Salazar, whose vulnerability and misguided piety led directly to the unleashing of the very evil his ancestors fought so hard to contain. The foundation of this legacy was laid by the first Castellan, a formidable figure known to history as Count Gregorio the Conqueror. It was Count Gregorio who, centuries ago, valiantly led the violent crusade against the original Los Illuminados cult. His forces successfully eradicated the cult's public presence. His forces successfully eradicated the cult's public presence. Seeing their worship of his forces' successful crusade.
Gregorio.
His forces successfully Count Gregorio, who, centuries ago, valiantly led the violent crusade.
Yeah, okay. So, damn, Ramon. Yeah, like, I think I remember reading the file of Ramon being misled. I don't remember where exactly. But geez, so Ramon literally just went, yeah, um, like fuck my ancestors, bro. I'm just going to follow this like cult that they've been fighting for like what I'm assuming centuries. And I'm okay, but like, oh, I don't think I've ever read how he was like, I guess, deceived, or even like why he even agreed to it. I don't think I've read that. You know, if I have, I'd probably just quickly skim through it. I think I was too focused on the action part. But anyways, moving on.
Against the original Los Illuminados cult. His forces successfully eradicated the cult's public presence, seeing their worship of the parasites as an abominable heresy and a direct threat to his dominion and faith. He was the one who initiated the monumental task of gathering the amber-encased plagas and ensuring they were buried deep within the earth, beneath the protective shadow of his newly constructed castle.
That's a Gregorian
His actions established the Salazar family as righteous protectors, heroes who had saved the region from a dark spiritual corruption. Following Count Gregorio, the task of permanent containment fell to his successor, the second Castellan, Count Ippolito, the Sealer. It was Ippolito who finished the immense, arduous task of constructing the elaborate, reinforced subterranean vaults and passages designed to permanently seal the caves where the plagas lay dormant.
Wait, hang on, it just hit me. So when I was doing my Castellan run, it makes sense now, because this Castellans were wait, are they not the ancient army? Gregorian? Whatever his name is. Wait, is his name Greg? I don't want to go back. Yeah, Gregorian count. Refers to the founding age. Gregorian dynasty. Oh, is that the oh, hang on. So apparently there's two Gregorian dynasties. The first, that's the conqueror, Gregorian the First, the conqueror. The ancestor defeated the Los Illuminados cult and sealed them away. And then the third count, which is Gregorian II, the architect, known for bankrupting the family treasury by building excessive defense and strange contraptions inside Salazar's. Okay, and then the line ends with a Ramon. Okay. Yeah. So the Castellans are the noble family that ruled Spain. So in the context of RE4, it's the part of the Salazar family bloodline. The primary duty as Castellanos, or castle keepers, was to act as the sentinels guarding the sealed Las Plagas parasite. According to the Salazar family chronology lore file found in the game, the lineage progressed through a distinct era. So that's the first, second, so the early protectors. And then third and fourth are the castle builders, and tragic downfall was the seventh and eighth. So the seventh is Count Diego, who's the father of Ramon Salazar. Ah, interesting. Okay, I think this video would start to make sense. As we go further.
This engineering feat was a testament to the family's dedication, an architectural promise to future generations that the demonic parasites would remain imprisoned forever. For hundreds of years, this sacred responsibility was diligently passed down from one castellan to the next, a generational burden that ensured the Las Plagas remained buried, forgotten by most, but...
So the Castellan are the noble family, right? Yes, the history of Castellans, the Salazar family bloodline. Yeah.
guarded with unwavering vigilance by the Salazar bloodline. However, the passage of centuries, combined with a gradual decline in the family's direct involvement in the region's broader affairs, began to erode the fierce resolve of the earlier Castellans. By the time the 8th Castellan, the young and intensely isolated Ramon Salazar, inherited the castle, the weight of this ancient legacy had become distorted. Ramon was a solitary figure, prone to eccentricity, insecurity, and a deep, almost childlike naivety, despite his aristocratic title. He had grown up steeped in the lore of his family's glorious past, but his understanding was warped by his own vulnerabilities and a fervent, almost desperate desire for spiritual significance. It was this profound psychological and emotional vulnerability that made Ramon Salazar an ideal target for manipulation by Osmond Sadler, the charismatic and ruthless leader of the resurrected Los Iluminados cult. Sadler, with his cunning intellect and his deep understanding of human psychology, saw in Ramon the perfect tool to undo centuries of Salazar guardianship.
Damn.
Sadler exploited Ramon's isolation and his deep-seated guilt, subtly twisting the historical narrative. He convinced Ramon that his ancestors had not performed a righteous act, but had instead committed a grave sin by banishing the cult and suppressing their true god, Las Plagas. Sadler painted a picture of Ramon's ancestors.
So Ramon is quite an eccentric person, so he accepts like very odd or unconventional sort of norms, kind of like, how do I say, he's like he likes to be controversial, I guess. And so he was like an easy target for the manipulativeness of what's his name? Sadler. Oh damn, what a way to really say F you to your entire lineage. Like, damn, dude.
As misguided persecutors, denying the world true enlightenment. He argued that it was Ramon's divine duty, his sacred act of atonement, to right this ancient wrong.
Damn, bro really
this
wanted to be different.
manipulation was incredibly effective. Ramon Salazar, eager for spiritual
like cults on the
redemption
internet.
and swayed by Sadler's persuasive rhetoric, made the fateful, catastrophic decision to unseal the ancient mines and vaults, deliberately undoing the painstaking work of his forefathers. This act of misguided piety, born from a manipulation of his family's very legacy, directly led to the reawakening of the dormant Las Plagas, unleashing a biological and spiritual catastrophe that the Salazar bloodline had sworn for centuries to prevent. Ramon Salazar, the last of his line, became the unwitting architect of the very disaster he was sworn to guard against, turning his family's proud legacy into a dark testament to hubris and deception. Part 4. Sadler's rise to power and cult reformation. The resurgence of the Los Iluminados cult from centuries of dormancy was not a random act of fate, but the meticulously orchestrated plan of one man, Osmond Sadler. He was not merely a figurehead, he was the charismatic, ruthless, and highly intelligent current leader and prophet of the cult, a man who combined profound theory.
Okay, so I don't think it says in the video, but apparently from what I'm reading, it's that Ramon Salazar also had illnesses when he was a kid, so he was very sick, and Sadler's cult stepped in to cure him. This made Salazar believe Sadler was a savior, betraying family legacy. Salazar's ancestor originally fought the cult and locked him away. Sadler convinced Salazar, I think that's what they said, that sealing the parasite was a sin against the cult. Offering false power, Sadler promised Salazar ultimate control. He gave him special dominant parasite, told mind control Salazar, but Salazar believed he was in charge, so that's Ramon, I think. Believed he was in charge. In reality, the parasite allowed Sadler to manipulate Salazar completely. So, but why did I still understand why did Ramon go like, yeah, like besides his personality from what I read before. So Ramon was undiagnosed lifelong illness that severely stunted his physical growth, turned his hair gray, and let his face deeply wrinkle, making him look like an elderly man. Being only 20, Sadler, acting as a charismatic holy doctor, stepped in when Ramon was at death door by introducing a dominant plaga parasite. Because the parasite effectively took over his nervous system, suppressed his previous pain, Ramon viewed this biological infection as a genuine divine miracle and cure. Okay. Ramon's ancestor, the first Castellan, Gregorio Salazar, were the ones who originally waged them. Blah blah blah. Because Ramon was orphaned at a very young age, he never learned the true history of his family or the horrific nature of the parasite. Sadler weaponized this ignorance. He convinced the lonely child that his ancestors were evil heretics who committed a grave sin. Oh, so it's basically like, yeah, I cured you, and yeah, apparently your family lineage were against me. I'm the good guy, basically. Ramon came to believe that unearthing the parasite was the only way to atone for the family's crime. Okay, so Ramon pretty much just went like, oh no, how could this be? I'm gonna help you out. I will fix this mess by unleashing the parasite. Growing up weak, deformed, and isolated, with only his butler for company made Ramon highly insecure. Sadler didn't just give him a regular parasite, he gave him the dominant social plaga. Unlike the common village, became mountains drones. This specific parasite allowed Ramon to keep his intelligence, voice, and ego, while granting him the godlike ability to mentally command thousands of infected subjects, to an insecure man who felt powerless. So it's just an insecure little bastard. Damn. Ramon.
The logical conviction.
What ego does to a
deep
person.
Understanding of biological manipulation. Sadler's rise to power and his subsequent reformation of the Los Iluminados cult are central to the Las Plagas outbreak, demonstrating how an ancient faith could be weaponized with modern science to achieve a terrifying vision of global domination. Sadler's first, most crucial step in his plan was to exploit the profound vulnerability of Ramon Salazar, the isolated and religiously guilt-ridden 8th Castellan of the castle. Sadler, with his persuasive rhetoric and manipulative charm, systematically converted Ramon to the cause of Los Iluminados. He convinced the young Castellan that his ancestors had committed a grievous sin by suppressing the cult and burying the divine Las Plagas, and that it was Ramon's sacred duty to atone for these historical wrongs by reawakening the ancient power. This conversion was a masterstroke, granting Sadler immediate access to immense resources and a vital historical claim to the very land where the Plagas lay dormant. With Ramon Salazar firmly under his influence, Sadler led Plagas and that it was Ramon's sacred duty to atone for these historical wrongs by reawakening the ancient
Can you
power,
explain these wrongs?
the divine Las Plagas, and that it was Ramon's sacred duty to atone for these historical
But it was a
wrongs.
lie he said, though.
He
I
convinced
wonder
the
if it
young
matched what I said.
Castellan that his ancestors had committed a grievous sin by suppressing the cult and burying the divine Las Plagas, and that it was Ramon's sacred duty to atone for these historical wrongs by reawakening the ancient power. This conversion was a masterstroke, granting Sadler immediate access to immense resources and a vital historical claim to the very land where the Plagas lay dormant. With Ramon Salazar firmly under his influence, Sadler leveraged the Castellans' inherited wealth and status to formally and publicly rebuild the cult, no longer confined to secretive, whispered rites. Los Iluminados emerged from the shadows, attracting new followers with promises of spiritual enlightenment and a connection to ancient power. Ramon's castle, once a fortress against the cult, became its new headquarters, its ancient halls now resonating with the sermons of Osmond Sadler and the zealous devotion of his new adherents. The surrounding rural villages isolate vision that combined ancient dogma
Oh, what just happened? Whoa. Okay, that was
plan
weird.
for global domination. A vision that combined ancient dogma with a modern, bioengineered army. Sadler's control over his new, infected army was absolute, thanks to his personal assimilation of a dominant species plaga. This highly advanced strain of the parasite allowed him to exert full telepathic control over any individual infected with the lesser, subordinate plagas. This created a powerful, unified hive mind, where Sadler was the
Bruh. Holy lag.
This highly advanced strain of the parasite allowed him to exert full telepathic control over any individual infected with the
Hang on, go to... Okay,
lesser,
just the video.
subordinate plagas. This created a powerful, unified hive mind, where Sadler was the undisputed absolute ruler, or lord, of the cult. Those infected with the subordinate plagas, known chillingly as ganados, cattle in Spanish, were stripped of their free will, their minds becoming mere extensions of Sadler's consciousness, allowing him to direct them with terrifying precision and unity. Osmond Sadler's rise was a chilling demonstration of how a charismatic leader could exploit religious fervor and ancient biological power. He transformed a forgotten cult into a formidable bio.
Whoa, what is going on? It's like freaking tripping. What the hell? Okay, hang on a minute. That is so weird. Okay, anyways, hopefully it should be working now. Don't know why it's tripping.
Seemingly innocuous act of excavation. Once Osmond Sadler had manipulated Ramon Salazar into unsealing the ancient mines beneath the castle. The physical process of unearthing the dormant parasites commenced. This act, however, was fraught with immediate and unforeseen biological consequences, turning the very workers hired for the excavation into the first unwitting victims and the initial test subjects for Sadler's horrific biological experiments. Ramon Salazar, acting under Sadler's guidance, hired local village workers to. The crucial turning point came when the workers inadvertently breathed.
Okay, what the hell? Why is OBS crashing, bro?
The ancient nature of the parasites and provided Sadler with his primary resource. The crucial turning point came when.
Okay, it should be back.
When the workers inadvertently breathed in the airborne plaga spores that were contained within these ancient remains. Despite being dormant for eons, when the workers inadvertently breathed in the airborne plaga spores that were contained within these ancient remains. Despite being dormant for eons, the highly resilient spores were released into the confined, dusty air of the mines. As the amber was disturbed and the fossilized parasites crumbled, these microscopic spores, inhaled deeply into the lungs of the unsuspecting villagers, began a terrifying internal biological process. Over time, as the spores incubated within their bodies, they matured into full-grown, living plagas, active airborne plaga spores that were contained within these ancient remains. Despite being dormant for eons, within these amber formations, they discovered what appeared to be mummified or fossilized remains of the plagas, the desiccated, dormant forms of the parasite that had been perfectly preserved for millions of years. This initial finding confirmed the ancient nature of the parasites and provided Sadler with his primary resource. The crucial turning point came when the workers inadvertently breathed in the airborne plaga spores that were contained within these ancient remains. Despite being dormant for eons, the highly resilient spores were released.
Oh my freaking god, bro. I'm gonna restart.